you sleeping on your eldritch sugar daddies? Missing out on drama from your devilish patrons? Because warlocks too often treat their patrons like a free pass to magical shenanigans, but being beholden to powerful beings with questionable agendas should come with strings attached. And those strings are where the fun lives. Think juicy personal costs, complications, and powerful character dilemmas guaranteed to get your players more emotionally involved. Not to mention the fact that you get to show up at the table as an actual damn demon, archfey, and the like. But it can be risky. Those same fun conflicts can be patron pitfalls, derailing party cohesion or eroding trust in the DM if you're not devilishly careful. So here's how to get all the fun out of Warlock patrons without letting them derail your campaign. Patrons should make your campaign extra spicy. You'll ratchet up tension between player and patron, creating fun sparks between characters and avoiding creating too much friction. Because of course patrons are designed to be problematic for the player. A Faustian bargain, the archetype of the Warlock pact, literally means making a deal with the devil. So if your player has Warlock status, they desperately wanted power and were willing to sacrifice their freedom, their morals, or even their soul to get it. That's an emotional, character-driven plot hook, bake right in. The thing is, the patron entered into this bargain because they wanted something, and that's the cost the Warlock pays. They owe an extremely powerful character a lot. What does that mean? Well, when they aren't paying their patron enough attention, or they're not spending enough time on what the patron wants them to accomplish, their manager might just show up and complain.
Aren't we forgetting one teensy-weensy but ever so crucial little tiny detail? I own you!
Now, this shouldn't be controversial. Patrons were designed to be a cost and complication as well as a power source. But a lot of DMs and storytellers hesitate. So consider this permission to bring a Warlock's patron in more often, and even occasionally let them take the role of the antagonist, if the party isn't doing what they're being paid to do in magic. So how do clever DMs handle this rich storytelling tool without causing issues? Let's get into it. D&D Warlocks are often suggested for new players because mechanically, they're easy casters. Defaulting to, I cast Eldritch Blast, is way simpler than a sorcerer's metamagic, and you're less likely to die horribly at first level than the notoriously squishy wizard. Besides, you get to play a charisma character, which is downright fun. Unfortunately, a lot of players, new and old, haven't given their patron much thought. They might not be expecting them to show up demanding an act of fealty during downtime. So how do you address this? Well, by working with your player. Session 0 is the perfect opening to ask questions, figure out how and why their character accepted the pact, and what they know, or think they know, about their patron. If your campaign's already been going a while, bring it up between sessions to set the stage. Either way, make it clear to your player that a patron is not an animal companion the player controls. They're a powerful NPC and a force in the world, which your character owes fealty to. More like worshipping a king than carrying around a Pokemon. Sure, their patron is part of their character's backstory, so their feelings matter. Inform the patron you craft with their desired vibes, like eldritch, nature-based, fae vibes, what have you. But you, as the DM, need latitude to get their patron involved. If you need to convince them, let them know that this brings their backstory into the foreground. Few players are mad about the spotlight. Also be sure you know any lines that the player isn't cool with their patron crossing. Communication is key, and it can be super fun, like play-by-post roleplay to work out their dynamic before presenting the patron at the table. That's a great way to figure out how your Warlock feels about their patron. Grateful? In love? Slightly terrified? But what about the rest of the party? Because sure, the Warlock made a pact with an unknowable, possibly malevolent entity, but the rest of the party didn't. What if they're not cool with Cthulhu? Not down with the devil, feeling angsty about archfey? Again, these kinds of sparks can be a good thing, and they can lead to great roleplay moments. They can also completely derail your campaign. This is another moment where the power of session 0, or between session communication, is your friend. Take a moment to map out your party's alignments and allegiances. Worldbuilding's diplomacy webs and whiteboards are a great visualization tool for that. If the paladin is devoted to demon slaying, that might make your warlock's fiend patron a source of ongoing friction. But here's the thing. It's up to you and your players whether you play this for laughs or as a source of real drama. What kind of fun are we having is the most powerful question a GM can ask. If you're running a light-hearted campaign, use the patron to poke fun at your designated do-gooder, in a snarky way, like Q from Star Trek TNG. In a grimdark campaign, the patron might lean into the tension, taunting or haunting the good members of the party, or even trying to turn them. And of course, it's important to find ways to spotlight all your characters. Otherwise, your players might get irritated with the Warlock hogging stage time. This is a golden moment to consider how other player backstories can bring story and drama to the campaign. Think childhood friends, factions, and more. Okay, so now you've negotiated with your players, and you've established your patron as a repeat character, sending visions, dropping drama, and generally causing creative chaos. How do you actually play them at the table? Because this is the most fun part. You, as the DM, get to play a being of limitless arcane power, who may also be a capricious, snarky diva. So here are some pro tips for performing your Warlock's patron as an unstoppable force of dramatic power. To start with, be clear in your own mind who they are and what they want. But don't let the PCs know. Patrons, depending on their alignment, might lie and manipulate to get what they want, or tell the truth if it serves them. Your PCs may not know the difference. You can use this for drama. Once you know what they want, give them a personality and vibes. I've seen barely intelligible eldritch patrons and suave devils, even Mary Poppins-like fey nannies who hand out chidings and candy in equal measure. Style your patrons' vibes to your campaign's mood and comedy level, and bear in mind what your player requests. Oh, and let me know the most creative Warlock patron you've seen in the comments. And please like this video while you're down there to appease my Eldritch Masters. Next, it's time for your patron's allegiance to cause your Warlock some problems. They are, after all, incredibly powerful, and other powerful beings can probably sense who's your sugar daddy. So make sure that your patron leaves an indelible mark on your Warlock. Maybe that affects them at shrines, when they encounter divine servants, and when they touch some kinds of magic. Sometimes it might work in their favour, and sometimes it might work against them. But it's a great show don't tell for their Warlock status. And if you feel like having your patrons show up every session is overkill, you're right. Good instincts. But patrons don't have to show up at the table to communicate. Let them send omens, dreams, visions and whispers, or even strange compulsions the players have to interpret. That might be orders, but it can also be useful information, depending on whether they're doing what the patron wants. This can be super fun for roleplay, and yes, passing notes at the table works great for this. If you're unsure about what your patron would do next, remember this. The patron is actively seeking agents and recruiting for their own goals. Keep them aiming for that goal, and don't worry if it causes problems for the Warlock, because as we all know, problems are when the story really gets good. Now, all of this doesn't just apply to Warlock patrons. It also applies to clerics and paladins. But if you want to transform your gods into cleric and paladin propelling machines, and also story engines, you'll need a pantheon worthy of the task. The next video will guide you through exactly that, crafting the perfect pantheon for your world that drives stories and characters, and creates some great drama on the way. Click to go there next, and I'll see you over there. Then grab your hammer and go world build.